everybody, Cal Banyan here. Cal Banyan's Hypnosis, etc. Welcome to podcast number, gosh, I hope I've got these calculations right, 299. If plans go according to plan, then I'll be back next week with Meredith Locker, my wonderful co-host, and we're going to go and do podcast 300. I'm hoping we have something very special for you. I kind of left it up to her. Oh, yes, Meredith emailed me, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I said, whatever you want. So I'm going to show up a week or so for my podcast recording time and find out what kind of exciting stuff we have going for podcast number 300. Before I get started, let me tell you, if you're watching this podcast anywhere except calbanyan.com, you want to go there right now, calbanyan.com. Why? Because on calbanyan.com, we have every single one of these podcasts, going on 300 podcasts. Become a VIP member. Just up there somewhere, there is a button that says become a VIP member, a very important person, and you will get a link to a page that has every single podcast title, and it is like a complete index of all the podcasts. And you know what that means? That means you can just search down that list and pick through whatever you want, whenever you want, and then you are in charge. Okay, good. Cal Banyan, that's me, and I am an author. I am a speaker. I am a teacher. I am a consulting hypnotist or hypnotherapist, whatever you want to call it. And I am just doggone excited to be here today with another all Cal episode. That means I got you all to myself. I'm going to see how much cool information I can get into this podcast. Now, by the way, podcast, that is kind of a name that was, I believe, coined by Apple when they came out with their iPods and iPads and all that kind of stuff. And so we upload this program in audio and video form to iTunes. So if you have the way to, let's see, if you've got an iPad or a iPhone or something like that, you can subscribe to this podcast and have the podcast automatically fed to your phone or iPad each week as they come out. Or you can also go there and have it play right there on iTunes. All right, so today I came into my office and one of our office hypnotists was all excited. She's so excited and about how she was able to help some clients. And she goes, Cal, I want to tell you about this one client. And I says, okay, go ahead. And she says, you know, it's so amazing. It's just like you said. Don't listen to your clients with regard to the cause of the problem. She has this client that was in, and the client thought he or she was in for sexual molestation issues. Now, guess what? In every case every case I ever had, whatever the client thinks is the cause of the problem is not the cause of the problem. It is what we call the symptom producing event. Now, this is some event, sometimes it's a traumatic event, but it is event that changes their life. And what I want you to remember is that if you are a really good age regression hypnotist, you're going to be able to do things that counselors and psychologists are not going to be able to do, because all they have is the conscious report of the cause of the problem and the ability to talk about the problem and perhaps have some insight about the problem with events that can be remembered consciously. But when we get someone into the somnambulistic state, we can aid that person to re-experience, revivify, and remember events that occurred before what they have conscious access to, which they would be talking about in talk therapy. And as I was talking to her, I said, this was something I want you to remember. I never really talk much about this in class in this way. But these, quote, traumatic events don't are usually not responsible for the cause of the problem. What they do is they magnify the beliefs and the emotions that already exist in the client. These traumatic events, or these big events that are like symptom producing events, the event that triggers the problem, be it drinking too much or smoking too much or whatever the problem is, irrational fears, all these kinds of things. If we take them to that event in age regression and we can ask that aspect of themselves, let's say they're 7 years old, we can talk to 7 as they are reliving the thoughts and the feelings and the event that caused the problem from the adult's perspective. As a 7-year-old child, we can talk to that aspect of themselves, which is stored within themselves, and say, is this feeling that you're having right now? I'd say like the 7, that feeling that you're having right now, let me ask you about that feeling. Is that feeling familiar? Like, oh boy, here we go again. Or is it new? Familiar or new? And then from the perspective of the child, reliving it, hallucinating, being in that spot, there the child can say, no, this is new. Or they can say, no, I always feel this way when blah, 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 when something like this happens. Or I've felt this way before. Good. Focus on that feeling. That feeling becomes a tunnel to the past. Mentally go into that tunnel and follow it back to where that feeling started. And we can find that these fears and these other problems that happen, now they may have been turned into a symptom, turned into an issue at some point in their life, but the groundwork was laid earlier on in their life. Most of the ISCs that I contend with are actually 3 years old or younger, times when we typically don't have much or any conscious memory of. So here's the idea. Like, let's say an individual is raped. That is a terrible, terrible thing. It is a wrong thing. And guess what? There's generally at least 2 kinds of outcomes from that. And this individual, male or female, that is raped, let's say it happens at a young age, like when they're a teenager, that could either debilitate them, leave a scar on their psyche that causes them to maybe have confidence problems, or to be anxious in social situations, or to have relationship problems, and all that kind of thing. Or the opposite could happen. They could be made stronger by it. And this person could become a champion for changing the laws or supporting people who've been through that kind of thing. So let me tell you what happens is that these quote traumatic events don't so much as harm us, you see, as they do magnify our beliefs, emotions, and experiences from the past. Take these 2 people, one that becomes debilitated by the event and the other one that's made stronger. There's this old saying, that which does not kill me makes me stronger. Well, that's not true. That which does not kill me can make me weaker. It can make me more afraid. It can debilitate me, or it can make me stronger. Now, what is the difference? It depends on the previous beliefs and experiences within the 2 individuals. This person who it debilitated, the person that made them more afraid or made them weaker, they already had experiences in their lives that put the beliefs inside of them or the emotions inside of them that then became magnified by the traumatic event that created the SPE, the symptom producing event. So if they already felt, gosh, I'm nervous, I'm afraid, I'm insecure, I don't know if I have what it takes to be successful, maybe I'm a victim, these kinds of thoughts. And then boom, here comes this thing that happens, this traumatic event, like a rape. And then what does it do? It reinforces all of those previous beliefs that are inside themselves and magnifies it by the power and the energy of what happened. Now, if you've got this other person over here who becomes stronger because of the event, it's because in their history, the events that they've gone through, the circumstance in which they grew up, they had beliefs like, I can do things that make things better. My life, most of how I feel is determined by what I think I do. They feel powerful. They feel like they can get things done, that they matter. Okay? And then when this rape comes up, then what happens is it magnifies all of those previous beliefs. And that individual then is the one that becomes the champion for changing laws, or for being willing to go to court and help prosecute as a witness that rapist, where the other person who is weak might not be willing to do that. And that person might also go on to be a social worker, or a counselor, or a psychologist, or physician that helps people get through those kinds of things. So do not be fooled by the obvious. When clients come in and says, oh, it all goes back to such and such a day. Well, nod your head and say, wow, that was really tough, and don't negate what they said or doubt what they said at that time. Just file it away as probably an SPE. It's not until you get them regressed to that time in their life and they're reliving it, revivifying it, that you can ask that younger aspect of themselves, which is stored in long-term memory, stored in the subconscious mind. Is that feeling familiar or new? That thought, is that familiar or new? For example, oh, I'm such a victim. How come all this bad stuff happens to me? And you can say, okay, 13. Let's say we regress them to 13, and 13 was the time of the event, 13 years old. Okay, this thought, gosh, I am such a victim. This kind of thing always happens to me. Is that familiar or new? Okay, and what are you feeling? And of course, that would be feelings like of fear. And we could follow back to where those kinds of ideas became implanted. So it's just amazing what we can do when we really know what we're doing. We really are 1%ers. I know that there's been some rumbling on some of the networks about Cal. He's such a hardcore person. Why does he call people that don't do age regression hypno-wimps? And yes, right up there, there's a link that says hypno-wimps. And, you know, there's only so much you can do with direct suggestion alone. And it's, if you really want to be the best, a 1%er, best of the best, then you know what you need to do is you need to become good at age regression and parts work. And 5-Path is certainly a great system to be able to do that. I believe it's the best. If there's anything we could do to make it better, we would make it better. And so keep checking back. If we haven't already put up our schedule for next year, it'll be coming back very soon, and it will be up there in our navigation area for hypnosis training. The NGH Banyan approved hypnotherapy certification course, and for you folks who are already trained in certified hypnotherapy, some of you prefer to take the short version of that, which is the Week of Power. All right. I also got onto a different subject now. I got an email that says, can the 5-Path method be used to deal with issues such as chronic pain with a known physical cause? That is, pain that can't be dealt with by age regression or parts therapy. If so, how? Name is Vicky Ortiz. Thank you, Vicky Ortiz, for sending that in. All right. So, but the question is kind of confusing. And there's a comment area down there. After I answer it, if I'm not understanding this question completely, then you can straighten me out, and we have a little conversation in the comments area down there. But 5-Path consists of phase 1, preparation, testing, and convincing, so you get someone that's somnambulistic and hopeful. And then we do age regression and age progression work to get rid of the cause of the problem from a historical point of view. Then we do parts work such as forgiveness of others, forgiveness of self, and if need be, parts mediation work. So your question says, can the five-path method be used to deal with issues such as chronic pain with a known physical cause? That is, pain that can't be dealt with by age regression or parts therapy. Well, five-path is age regression and parts therapy, so if it can't be dealt with age regression and parts therapy, then five-path wouldn't be applicable. But so that's kind of confusing to me. You're trying to tell me this thing that has this and this is ineffective for this, can you use this and this? Well, I think there's a misunderstanding here. Chronic pain. Let me talk about chronic pain. Pain that's been going on for a long time, there's no end in sight. There's always going to be an emotional component to chronic pain. There's going to be issues around how it started. There could be anger. There could be guilt. There could be frustration. There could be normal depression, not clinical depression, and all these different things. Fear, anger, guilt, frustration, non-clinical depression, all this kind of stuff. Now, standard direct suggestion hypnosis alone does not go after that kind of thing. Typically, standard pain management is mostly visualization or working with creating glove anesthesia or analgesia, where you create blockage of pain, and then once that's been done, moving that blockage of pain to the area that's needed. And gosh, that approach has helped a lot of people, but it hasn't helped everybody. If you take that kind of information, and I think one of the experts in pain management, I've mentioned him before, Ron Esslinger. I'll put a link to his training material that we have here at our center, a video set that he did for us at our center to teach pain management work. If you take that kind of work, those kinds of tools, and add five-path, or any kind of work where you go after the emotional aspects such as age regression, parts work, forgiveness work, and this kind of thing, then you really have the best of both worlds. Let me see, I'll look at some notes here. Dr. John Sarno, he has a book, I believe the title is Healing Back Pain. In fact, I believe he's got about 3 or 4 books that have to do with emotions and pain. And here's the deal. Interesting. As I read his book, I found out that sometimes this is what happens. Okay, so the patient comes in complaining of pain. And so that, like, let's say it's the lower back. And they go in looking for something that would explain the experience of pain. Okay? Maybe a disc is out of alignment, maybe there's a pinched nerve or something like that. And they find something, they go, this could explain the pain. And then they come up with the different therapies to try to remediate that problem. But Dr. John Sarno, in his wisdom, he says, you know what? But the interesting thing is, those same kind of maladies, the disc being squished or out of alignment, or the whatever that they're identifying as the probable cause of the pain, exists in many, many people without causing pain. So in your question where you said, can five-path method be used to deal with issues such as chronic pain with a known physical cause? Sometimes we have to put quotation marks around known, because you know what? Sometimes known physical causes are not so known. They are theoretical or hypothetical. They say, oh, well, this looks like it could be causing part of the problem, and they go after it. Instead, Dr. John Sarno says, you know what, you can do operations on that stuff, you can do therapy for that stuff, and in some cases there will be no change. And he talks about how people learn to push down on their emotions. They push down. You start to feel anger coming up, or you start to feel frustration coming up, or sadness coming up, and we push it down. Now, the subconscious mind generates emotions, and then they are expressed in the body, and the body is controlled by the unconscious mind. You hear me talk about this all the time. X happens, which means something happens. You give meaning to it. So X goes to M, which is meaning, and then meaning is either it's going to fulfill or not fulfill a need, want, or desire. If you perceive it as going to fill a need, want, or desire, you get pleasant emotions. If you perceive it as not going to be able to fulfill your needs, wants, and desires, then the subconscious mind starts creating painful emotions. Now, we don't like to experience those pains, that pain, which is then felt as a feeling in the body, so we squish it down. Now, the unconscious mind controls bodily functions, large part by smooth muscle response. There's three kinds of muscles in the body: cardiac, which is heart; striated, which is like the ones that move your bones and help you to be mobile and move your arms and stuff like that. And then there are the smooth muscles. And the smooth muscles are in your organs and around your circulatory system. And so when an emotion starts to come up to be felt in the body, the mechanism of pushing it down, of squeezing it back, causes a response in smooth muscle of contraction, of pushing it down. And so if we have an anger or a fear or a sadness that is unexpressed, unexplored, then what will happen is you'll have this chronic pressing down. And when this happens in the circulatory system, according to Dr. John Sarna, is that will reduce the circulation in your muscles. And that can cause chronic oxygen deprivation to different parts of the body. So example, if you feel the emotion in your chest and you push it down, then that can constrict the circulation in your chest. If it's in your abdomen, if you feel it in your back, it can cause a restriction of blood flow in those areas, causing chronic but mild oxygen deprivation, which causes pain. And so, sometimes the known cause of the pain is not really so known. Second of all, there's almost always an emotional component: anger, fear, frustration, guilt, sadness, these things like that coincide with chronic pain. So when we take the masking type techniques of pain management and add to that the powerful techniques of 5-path, age regression, parts work, including forgiveness of others, forgiveness of self, then what happens is that need to push down and hold back those emotions is eliminated, because we neutralize the emotion and we encourage the client to express the emotions, to let it out, to have the cathartic experience in the hypnosis, and boom, the pain can be relieved. So, that's my answer. 5-path can be used to deal with issues such as chronic pain with a known cause of the problem. All right, good. Oh, let me squeeze this in real quick. Different topic. Write or call the National Guild of Hypnotists right now and tell them that you want them to give Celeste Hackett a column in the Journal of Hypnotism. I tell you what, she's been writing for my e-zine on hypnosis.org, and I'll put a link below to our e-zine, and for a long time, and she writes excellent articles. I'm so impressed with her, and I mentioned that to Dr. Dwight Damon, and I think he's going to do it, but let's push him over the edge, and let's get Celeste Hackett writing some articles for the National Guild of Hypnotists. So my loss, but the world's gain, because I don't think she'll have time to write both for the e-zine and the journal, but I'd like to really see her step up and start writing for the National Guild of Hypnotists journal. By the way, on hypnosis.org, hypnosis.org, you know what? We've had a whole bunch of our writers write for that. I'm so honored to have all these. There's like 37 different hypnosis professionals in the past. You recognize some of the names: Roy Hunter, Charles Curtis, Dell Hunter Morrill, L. Ron Ferguson, Dr. Richard Hart, Jack Elias, James Ramey, Jerry Valley, Meredith Locker, Michelle Beaudry, Ron Esslinger, Sean Brookhouse, Teresa Van Zeller, Tom Nicoli, and Dr. Will Horton have all written articles, and they're there in our article database and we'll put another link right down below on hypnosis.org, and you can go in there. I tell you, this is the most giving profession I've ever seen. People just willing to share what they know with others and just put it out there. It's not like back in the day when I was getting started. Almost nobody had been on the internet yet. And now there's just all this good stuff on the internet so that you can learn how to help others. All right, I'm way over time. I didn't have Celeste or Elron or Meredith say, hey, we got to cut it because you're running out of time. We're about 25 minutes. So I'll let it go at that. Hope to see you in class. Hope to see you at a hypnosis event near you. Over and out. This recording is the property of Cal Banyan and the Banyan Hypnosis Center for Training and Services, Incorporated. All rights reserved, for private use only, may not be duplicated without permission. For contact information, go to www.hypnosiscenter.com.